We shall begin the course. So on behalf of Team CSP and Professor Sangeeta Menon, the Head and Dean of NIA's Consciousness Studies Program, I welcome you all to this online 3-day course taken by Dr. Shankar Rajaraman. Dr. Shankar Rajaraman is a psychiatrist by training and a poet by his nature. He's a postdoc scholar currently working with NIA CSP. So I request Dr. Shankar Rajaraman to give a brief about this course, and please start with his lecture. Over to you, sir.
Thanks a lot, Niharika. To be sure, I have never addressed a class of 400 students. This is a first experience of talking to such a large group. In order to ward off any obstacles that may hinder our course, let me begin with an invocation. This is by Bhatta Tauta, the teacher of Abhinav Gupta. The verse is addressed to the great Lord Shiva, Shambhu. Namas Trailokya Nirmana Kavaye Shambhave Yataha Pratikshanam Jagannatya Prayoga Rasiko Janaha. I salute Shambhu, Lord Shiva, who is the script writer and in whose drama we are all participants. We are both participants as well as we are the connoisseurs of the drama whose script writer is Shiva. So with this invocation, let me give a brief about the course. This course shall be for 1.5 hours, today, tomorrow, and on 20th. And as has been intimated to all of you, it shall be about readings from Indian aesthetics. So we shall specifically concentrate on the text. It is our prime duty to first understand the text properly before we can make our comments on it. So all these 3 days, we will basically be reading texts. So you all must be prepared for this grueling session because we shall be reading from original Sanskrit texts. So the first day we have chosen Natya Shastra, specifically the Rasa Sutra of Bharata, Vibhavanubhava Vyabhichari Sanyogat Rasa Nishpattihi. And I hope to at least cover till one of the poeticians, aestheticians mentioned by Abhinav Gupta, which is Bhatta Nayaka. So until Bhatta Nayaka, I hope to cover today, hopefully. Tomorrow, I shall cover Abhinav Gupta's portion and also Kuntaka, whose work Vakrokti Jivita we shall be reading. And on the 20th, we shall concentrate on Bhoja's Sringara Prakasha. All these 3 texts have been selected for a purpose. The first text, that is Abhinav Gupta's Abhinav Bharati, the commentary on Bharata's Natya Shastra, has been selected because it gives us an idea from the perspective of the connoisseurs. The second day we have chosen Vakrokti Jivita because the focal point here is the poetic work. And on 20th, we shall be looking at Bhoja because the focal point there is the main character, that is the protagonist, the Nayaka. So we shall be looking at literature from these 3 vantage points, from the point of view of the connoisseur, from the point of view of the poetic text, and from the point of view of the protagonist of a literary work. So this is how we shall proceed. And without much ado, let us start with the. So I have made these slides which shall help you to comprehend the Sanskrit material. And most of these slides are in the form of my notes itself. I have put these notes itself in the form of slides to also give you an idea that this is a class. So I request Niharika to go to the 3rd slide. I have shared my slides with Niharika and she shall be going to the 3rd slide. Yeah. Hope you are all able to watch the screen. What is written on the screen hopefully is clear cut. So we shall be starting from Lollata. There are four aestheticians that Abhinav Gupta, including himself, there are three aestheticians that Abhinav Gupta mentions who have commented on the Rasa Sutra of Bharata. The first is Lollata, the second is Shankuka, and the third is Nayaka, Bhattanayaka. And the fourth is Abhinav Gupta himself, his own thesis on the Rasa Sutra. So let me read out the Sanskrit portion first and then describe the slide. So a few of have been provided with an English transliteration by Noli. So those who have this particular text can start from the page 25. The others can start from the Sanskrit material that has been provided. So the Rasa Sutra is Vibhavanubhava Vyavichari Sanyoga Rasa Nishpattihi. Lakshana Sutra Maha. Lakshana Sutra is the definition, defining aphorism. So the defining aphorism is Vibhavanubhava Vyavichari Sanyoga Rasa Nishpattihi. And the commentators will basically be commentating on this particular defining aphorism. Atra bhal bhatta lollata prabhratayah tavadevam vyachakyuhu. Vibhavadibis sanyogo arthat sthayinah tato rasa nishpattihi. Atra vibhavah chittavrittehe sthayatmikayaha utpattau karanam. Anubhavascha na rasajanya atra vivakshitaha. Tesham rasakaranattvena ganana anarhatvat. Apitu bhavanam nanu ye anubhavaha vyabhicharinascha chittavrityatmakatvat yadyapi na sahabhavinah sthayina tatapi vasanatmana iha tasya vivakshitaha. Drishtante api abhivyanjana, the text, Sanskrit text has abhivyanjana, but the correct text would be vyanjanadhimatye, not abhivyanjanadhimatye. Vyanjanadhimatye kasyachit vasanatmakata sthayivat, anyasya tu udbhutata vyabhicharivat, tena sthayi eva vibhavanubhavadibhi upachito rasah, sthayi bhavati anupachitah, sacha ubhayorapi मुख्यया वृत्त्या रामादौ अनुकार्ये अनुकर्तर्यपि च अनुसंधान बलात् इति. So this is what is Lollata's commentary on the Rasa Sutra of Bharata. So let us come to the Rasa Sutra of Bharata, which is visible on the screen. Vibhavanubhava Vyabhichari Sanyogat Rasa Nishpattihi. Now there are three terms, in fact 4 terms, which we have to understand here. Vibhava, Anubhava, Vyabhichari Bhava, and something else which is not there in this sutra, but which is very important to understand this sutra, that is Sthayi Bhava. So you have Vibhava, Anubhava, Vyabhichari Bhava, and Sthayi Bhava. What are Vibhavas? Vibhavas can be translated as determinants, antecedents, factors, or stimuli. These are causative factors. What are Anubhavas? These are consequents, reactions, or responses. Vyabhichari Bhava. These are also mental states. There are 33 in number. They are called as transitory mental states because they come and go within a literary work. They do not prolong across a literary work, but they come, last for some time and disappear, like waves on an ocean. The wave emerges from the ocean and disappears into the ocean. In the same way, the Vyabhichari Bhava emerges and disappears in between. So it is called, it lasts for a lesser duration than this Sthayi Bhava, and that is why it is called as Vyabhichari Bhava, transitory mental state. And Sthayi Bhava, these are 8 to 9 in number, and these are permanent mental states, or you could call them as stable mental states, as opposed to the Vyabhichari Bhavas, which are transitory. These Vyabhichari Bhavas come and go, but the Sthayi Bhavas remain. These are called as, the Sthayi Bhava remains throughout the text. These are called as permanent mental states. Sthayi means to be stable. So to give an example of Vibhava, Anubhava, Vyabhichari Bhava, and Sthayi Bhava in real life, these would not be called as Vibhava, Anubhava, etc. in real life. You would call them as Karana, that is Vibhava, Karya, which is Anubhava, Sahachari Karana, which is Vyabhichari Bhava, and Sthayi Bhava remains as Sthayi Bhava in everyday life. So Vibhava would be, for example, death of a close relative. So your friend, you know, a particular information about your friend, that he has recently lost his close relative. His close relative is dead. And you see him crying or shedding tears. You also see him occasionally worrying. And from this, you infer that your friend is going through a mental state of sadness. So you require all these three pieces of information. You must know that he has lost his close relative. You should see him crying, shedding tears, and you should also know that he is worrying. Maybe by the way he speaks, you might infer that he is worrying. And all these three together help you to infer that your friend is going through the mental state of sadness. Now, what does Lollata say? Lollata says that let us consider a character such as Rama. The character that is Rama has a sthai bhava, has a mental state, say for example sorrow, because he has lost his wife has been kidnapped, and he is shedding tears and he is worrying. So you infer that he has the mental state of sadness. But there is a catch here. Lollata thinks that a character such as Rama has the mental state of sadness even before we invoke Vibhava, Vyavichari Bhava and Anubhava, which doesn't happen in real life. In real life, we have the information of Vibhava, Anubhava and Vyavichari Bhava, and then infer that, for example, your friend is going through a mental state of sadness. But in Lollata's case, the character to begin with itself has this sthai bhava of sadness, which is not possible actually. And these are certain comments, there are certain criticisms by Shankuka on this particular thought of Lollata, that a character could have a sthai bhava even to begin with. Your friend could have a sthai bhava. You could think that your friend has sadness already in his mind. But how do you say that a character such as Rama is already having the mental state of sadness in his mind even before the story has started? Even before the story has started, you cannot say that Rama already has sadness. Then what happens? There is this enrichment of this sadness. So there is already sadness in Rama, and what happens in a literary text is this enrichment of sadness. And this enrichment of sadness happens through Vibhavas, Anubhavas and Vyavichari Bhavas. The Vibhavas are often provided by the text itself. The Anubhavas are the reactions, and these reactions are portrayed by the actor on the stage. You see the actor shedding tears, or you see the actor trembling, and these are the Anubhavas. And the Vyavichari Bhavas are also enacted by the character, by the actor on the stage. So there is some enrichment of this already existing sthai bhava with Vibhavas, Anubhavas and Vyavichari Bhavas. So there is a partial enrichment, we could say. But there is further enrichment also as the story continues. You have many more Vibhavas coming into place, many more Anubhavas and many more Vyavichari Bhavas. Vibhava 1, 2, 3, Vyavichari Bhava 1, 2, 3 and Anubhava 1, 2, 3. And these further enrich the sthai bhava, which has been partially enriched by invoking only few Vibhavas, Anubhavas and Vyavichari Bhavas. Now, when the poet invokes several Vibhavas, Anubhavas and Vyavichari Bhavas, the sthai bhava becomes further enriched. So the third circle in the diagram shows an enriched sthai bhava, a fully enriched sthai bhava. And this fully enriched sthai bhava is what comes to be known as rasa. So starting from enriched, unenriched sthai bhava, which is already present in the character even before the story has started, and that is how Lollata thinks, there is partial enrichment and finally full enrichment of this sthai bhava, this mental state. And this is actually the Chirantananam cha ayameva pakshaha. This is what the ancient poeticians also believe. And that is why Dandi says, Dandi is one of the aestheticians, he says in his Kavya Darsha, Rati Shringaratam Gata Rupa Bahulya Yogena. Rati, which is the mental state, becomes the rasa of Rati, which is called Shringara, because of Rupa Bahulya Yogena, because of enrichment. So when the Sthai Bhava of Rati gets enriched by bringing within its fold several Vibhavas, Vyabhichari Bhavas and Anubhavas, this Rati, this mundane love, changes into aesthetic love. And that aesthetic love is called as Shringara. In the same way, he says, Adiruhya Param Kotim Kopo Raudratmatam Gataha. The mundane mental state of Kopa, which is Krodha or anger, gets transformed into the rasa of Raudra. So Krodha is the mundane anger and Raudra is the aesthetic anger. And the mundane anger gets transformed into the aesthetic anger by Param Kotim, by getting completely enriched. By full enrichment, the mundane anger gets transformed into aesthetic anger. And how does the enrichment happen? That enrichment happens by addition of several Vibhavas and Vyabhichari Bhavas and Anubhavas. Now, there are certain points against Lollata, and these points are brought out by Shankuka. What are these? What is the criticism of Shankuka? There are actually 7 criticisms, but the 7th criticism I have divided into 2 points. So let us look into these criticisms. The first is Etanneti Shri Shankukaha Vibhavadi Ayoge Sthayino Linga Abhavena Avagati Anupapattehe. That is the first one. The second is Bhavanam Purvam Abhideyata Prasangat. The third is Spita Dashayam Lakshanantara Vayarthyat. The fourth is Mandatama Madhyastyadi Anantya Apattehe. Hasya Rase Shodatva Abhava Praptehe. Kamavasthasu Dashasu Asankhya Rasa Bhavadi Prasangat. Shokasya Prathamam Tivratvam Kalattu Mandya Darshanam. That is the next one. And finally, Krodotsaharati-nam Amarsha-sthaitya seva viparyaye Hrasa Darshanam iti viparyayasya drishyamanatvat. So these are the criticisms of Shankuka. So let us go into each of these. The first one is, how do you establish the presence of Sthayi in the character even before Vibhava, Anubhava and Vyabhichari Bhava are invoked? Niharika, can you go to the next slide? Yeah. So these are the criticisms. The first criticism is, how do you establish the presence of Sthayi in the character even before Vibhava, Anubhava and Vyabhichari Bhava are invoked? It is as if Lollata is saying there is already some Sthayi in the character Rama even before Rama has entered into the story. How can we say that Rama already has sadness even before the story has started? Or how can you say Rama already has some mental state even before the story has started? It is only through the story that we understand that Rama has a particular mental state. It is only through the Vibhava, Anubhava and Vyabhichari Bhava that we infer that another person has a particular mental state. It is only through the presence of Vibhava, Anubhava and Vyabhichari Bhava that we infer that Rama has a mental state of sadness. How can you say that even before being enriched with Vibhava, Anubhava and Vyabhichari Bhava, there is already Sthayi Bhava which is present? It is like saying you establish the presence of fire in the mountain even without perceiving the smoke. So it is only after perceiving smoke that we infer that there is fire in the mountain. But what Lollata is saying is that there is already fire in the mountain, even without perception of the smoke. So that is the first point. The second point is, Bharata would have first dealt with Sthayi Bhava and then Rasa. So what happens is, if the enrichment of Sthayi Bhava leads to Rasa, obviously Bharata in the first chapter would have dealt with Sthayi Bhava, and in the second chapter he would have dealt with Rasa. That is, actually the Sthayi Bhavas are dealt in the 7th chapter and Rasa is dealt in the 6th chapter. If Sthayi Bhava's enrichment leads to Rasa, Bharata would have dealt with Sthayi Bhavas first. That is, in the 6th chapter he would have dealt with Sthayi Bhava and he would have dealt with Rasa in the 7th chapter. That is not happening. Bharata is actually dealing with Rasas first and then with Sthayi Bhavas. So this is the second criticism. The third criticism is, if Rasa is enriched Sthayi Bhava, then definition of Rasa under the 6th chapter would be superfluous. So Rasa is nothing but enriched Sthayi Bhava. But what Bharata does is, he gives definition of Sthayi Bhava also and he gives definition of the rasas also. So there are 8 sthayi bhavas. These sthayi bhavas are mundane mental states, and there are corresponding 8 rasas. So you have the 8 sthayi bhavas of rati, etc., rati, utsaha, etc., and you have corresponding rasas also. So these are mundane states and corresponding aesthetic states, mundane mental states and corresponding aesthetic mental states. Now, if rasa is nothing but sthayi bhava, there was no need for giving an extra definition for each rasa. But Bharata does the same. He gives a definition of sthayi bhava. Say, for example, he defines what is rati. He also defines what is shringara, which is the corresponding rasa of rati. If these were the same, if the sthayi bhava of rati got enriched and became rasa, there was no need for him to give 2 different definitions. But Bharata is giving 2 different definitions, which means rasa is something different than sthayi bhava. So that is the third point. The fourth point is innumerable gradations would result under each rasa depending on the degree of enrichment. We saw in the previous slide that there is enrichment. So you have first sthayi bhava, then you have partial enrichment, then with more addition of vibhava, anubhava and vyabhichari bhava, there is further enrichment, and finally the sthayi bhava gets completely enriched and becomes rasa. Now this means there would be several gradations of rasa. Partially developed rasa, still more partially developed rasa, much more developed rasa, a high degree of development, and so we would have several gradations, which would mean Bharata would have to say that innumerable rasas are there, because there can be innumerable, the number of the gradations can be innumerable. The extent to which, the degree to which enrichment can happen would be innumerable, and that would lead to innumerable types of Shringara, innumerable types of Veera rasa, innumerable types of Raudra rasa. But that is not the case. There is only one type of Shringara, one type of Raudra, one type of Veera. So this is another point. The fifth point is, if we say rasa is reached where there is utmost enrichment. So one person could say all these various types of these gradations of enrichment don't take them as rasa at all. So let us say rasa is what is reached when there is utmost enrichment. Then there is problem there also, because Bharata gives 6 types of hasya. The 6 types of hasya wouldn't have happened if there is no enrichment. So you cannot also say that the utmost enrichment is rasa. If the utmost enrichment is rasa, what about the 6 types of hasya? 6 types of hasya rasa would not be possible. There will be only one type of hasya rasa, which is the utmost enrichment. Next, gradations in Shringara rasa would happen, because there are 10 stages of Shringara rasa, which have been mentioned by Bharata and other aestheticians. These include Abhilasha, Arthachinta, Anusmriti, Gunakirtana, Udvega, Vilapa, Unmada, Vyadhi, Jadata and Marana. These are 10 stages of love. And if there are gradations in all, you could imagine the infinite number of Shringara rasas that would be created. But that is again not happening. There is only one Shringara rasa. And if there is continuous enrichment, there is no question of something becoming weaker. If there is continuous enrichment, how come Shoka first becomes intense and then becomes weak? It should be always in the state of continuous enrichment. It can never weaken. But we see in dramas and in literary works that sorrow first becomes intense and then weakens in the character. If there is continuous enrichment, sorrow should never weaken. It should always be intense. But our experience with drama and literary text shows that the character is not always in that intense shoka. First, there is intensity of shoka, but then as time progresses, the sorrow weakens. This should not be the case. And finally, in spite of other vibhavas, anubhavas, and vyabhichari bhavas enriching the mental states of Krodha, Utsaha, and Rati, these sthayi bhavas will still remain weaker in the absence of a specific vyabhichari bhava, that is Amarsha. So, if Krodha, for example, is strengthened by several vyabhichari bhavas, even if it is strengthened by several vyabhichari bhavas, it will not reach its peak unless it is enriched by the vyabhichari bhava of Amarsha. In the same way, you might give hundreds of vibhavas, that is hundreds of reasons for the mental state of Utsaha. But Utsaha will never get enriched unless you bring the particular vibhava of Sthairya. And you might you might give several anubhavas, that is reactions that stem from rati, from love. But love will never get enriched in spite of bringing all these various anubhavas unless you bring the anubhava of seva. So unless you bring amarsha, sthairya and seva, krodha, utsaha and rati will not respectively get enriched. So you cannot say that just by bringing several vibhavas, anubhavas and vyabhichari bhavas, the particular mental state will get enriched. For certain mental states, it is necessary that you bring certain vyabhichari bhavas, only certain anubhavas and only certain vibhavas. Unless you bring them, you might bring any other vyabhichari bhava, anubhava or vibhava, but that particular mental state will not get enriched and become rasa. So these are the various criticisms of Shankuka. Now, what is Shankuka's thesis? So, Niharika, you can go to the next slide. So this is Shankuka's thesis. So what Shankuka says is imitated sthai bhava inferred from a combination of vibhava, anubhava and vyabhichari bhava is rasa. In everyday too, we infer another person's mental state by, as I said in the first slide itself, we should have minimum three types of information. One is the information about the vibhava, the cause. For example, you should know that your friend has lost his close relative. The second sort of information that you should know is that of the karya, that is the effect. You should see your friend crying, or you should see your friend shedding tears. And the third sort of information is the information about other mental states which should occupy this, which should accompany this main mental state of sorrow. For example, the mental state of worrying. So if you have these 3 points, if you have knowledge about these 3 particular aspects, then you will be able to infer sorrow in your friend. So what Shankuka does is to bring this into the discussion on rasa. So Rama, a character such as Rama, so all of these aestheticians take the example of Rama to indicate a particular character. So say the character of Rama, and Rama's sorrow or Rama's love, etc. If in Rama's if the character had a real life, would be inferred by the karanas, the karyas and the sahakari karanas. We would infer that Rama is going through sorrow. Now what does the actor do? There is everything that is corresponding in Rama on the stage too. So there is a cause for Rama's sorrow, and corresponding to that cause of the character's sorrow, you have something corresponding to that in the nata, that is in the actor. That is called as vibhava. Something corresponding to sahakari in the character becomes what is called as vyabhichari bhava in the case of the actor. And something that is karya in the character becomes something called as anubhava in the nata. So you can see these broken lines connecting karana with vibhava, connecting sahakari with vyabhichari bhava, and connecting karya with anubhava. And there is an imitation of karana, sahakari and karya on the stage. You obviously cannot bring real Sita on the stage. You obviously, the tears that are shed by nata or the actor are obviously not the real tears, and the vyabhichari bhavas are also not the real real sahakari karanas of Rama. These are all imitations on the stage. So from these imitations on the stage, so the imitation of maybe of vibhava, the imitation of vyabhichari bhava and imitation of anubhava, we infer that the actor is going through sadness. Just as in real life, if Rama were to be in front of us, we would infer that Rama is going through sadness. In the same way, we would infer that the nata, the character, has the mental state of sadness. So what the actor actually has is not the real mental state of sadness, but even that is imitated. Because when the cause is imitated, when the effect is imitated, and when the transient mental states are also imitated, what is inferred from this, that is also imitated. So it is not real sadness that we infer in the nata, but it is the imitated sadness. And whose sadness does it imitate? It imitates the sadness of the character. So Rama has sadness, and the nata sadness is nothing but, the actor's sadness is nothing but an imitation of Rama's sadness. So the third box there shows how we infer vibhava, we infer the sthai bhava, the imitated mental state of the actor through vibhava, anubhava, and vyabhichari bhava, just as we infer fire from smoke. So the smoke here is a combination of vibhava, anubhava, and vyabhichari bhava. These are things that are visible to the spectator. The vibhava, information about the vibhava is given through the drama itself, through the script itself. The anubhavas are the reactions of the actor which we see, and the vyabhichari bhavas can also be imitated through certain expressions. So keeping these three as the linga, that is from which we make a reference of the hetu. So these three become like smoke, and from this smoke we infer the fire. And what is the fire? The fire is the mental state in the character, mental state in the actor, and that mental state which we infer in the actor, and which is actually an imitation of the character's mental state, that is called as rasa. And Shankuka next addresses how does the audience get the information of vibhava, anubhava, and vyabhichari bhava. And as I said just a second back, vibhava is the information through vibhava is got through poetry or through the script, because vibhava refers to karana, the causes for your mental state. Not everything that is a cause of our mental state can be brought on the stage. So for example, if Rama feels a sort of happiness on seeing a beautiful scenery in front of him, a huge mountain or so, or for example he feels sadness at the advent of rainy season because Sita is not with him. Obviously you cannot bring rainy season on the stage. You cannot show you cannot bring rains on the stage. So this will be provided, this information that it is raining will be provided by the script. The anubhava are the expressions. These expressions are the information about these expressions is through the actor himself, and the actor develops it, means he is able to provide information about the expressions because of his training. So he has some skill in acting, and that is born out of training. And finally, vyabhichari bhava is also supplied to the audience through their anubhavas. And again, anubhavas are the reactions, and anubhavas are to be known through this actor's skill, the acting skill of the actor. Again, anubhavas require training. So these three pieces of information are provided to the spectator, and from these three pieces of information, the spectator is able to infer that the actor has a particular mental state, and that mental state is nothing but an imitation of the mental state of the character. So the imitated mental state is actually the rasa, and that is got through inference by the spectator. So next slide. So you get information about the vibhava, anubhava, and vyabhichari bhava. But what about the information about the sthai itself, the mental state itself? Shankuka says that mental state, the information about a mental state cannot be directly communicated by any means. You can communicate vibhava, you can communicate anubhava, you can communicate vyabhichari bhava also, but the sthai bhava, the stable mental state, cannot be of the character, or secondarily of the actor, cannot be communicated by any means. Certainly not by the use of words connoting them. So let us go to that portion. So what does he say? Shankuka says, स्थायी तो काव्यबलादपि न अनुसन्देयः रतिः शोकः इत्यादयो हि शब्दाः रत्यादिकम् अभिधेयी कुर्वन्ति अभिधानत्वेन न तु वाचिकाभिनयरूपतया अवगमयन्ति न हि वागेव वाचिकम्. This is a very important statement that he makes. Na hi vaageva vachikam. Words themselves are not verbal enactment. Just as the limbs of the body themselves are not physical enactment. The limbs are limbs. You cannot say that the limbs themselves are physical enactment. In the same way, words themselves are not verbal enactment. But what is verbal enactment? What is communicated by speech is verbal enactment, just like what is communicated by bodily movements is physical enactment. Limbs themselves cannot be physical enactment, or words themselves cannot be verbal enactment. So he says, it cannot be communicated. The sthai cannot be communicated by using the words connoting them. To give an example, fear cannot be communicated merely by using the word fear. If you could do so, producing a horror movie would be superfluous. We could just project the word fear on the screen and fear would be communicated, but this doesn't happen. So you cannot communicate a mental state by using a word that connotes that particular mental state. And that is where you have the difference between Vak and Vachika. And you have examples given by Shankuka here. Two examples, two verses where the word shoka is used as it is. And in the third example, shoka is communicated. So in the first two verses, shoka is not communicated. In the third verse, shoka is actually communicated. The first verse is, these two verses, all these three verses are taken from dramas. The first two verses, we don't know the source of those two particular verses. Of the first verse. The second verse is taken from Tapasa Vatsaraja by Mayuraja, and the third is taken from Ratnavali of Harsha. The first verse, we don't know the source. So the verse says, Vivruddhatma Pyagadhopi Durantopi Mahanapi Vadave Neva Jaladi Shoka Krodena Piyate. Sorrow is drunk up by anger. Sorrow is sucked up dry by anger, is what it means. So there is a particular character. He is sorrowful because of some reason. Say, for example, because his some close relative is dead, so he becomes sorrowful. But later, after sorrow, he has anger towards the cause of that death. So his close relative has been killed by somebody, and following sorrow, he has anger towards that agent which killed his lover. So then the poet says, sorrow is drunk up by anger, which means sucked up dry by anger. Now the character doesn't have sorrow, he has anger at the agent which killed his lover. Now the poet is using the exact word sorrow here. So this is just using the word sorrow, it is not verbal enactment. The next example is also similar. Shokena Kritastambas Tatastito Yonavastita Krandaihi Hridayasputtana Bayartai Roditum Abhyartyate Sachivaihi. Here the king Vatsaraja thinks that his wife is dead. His wife Vasavadatta is dead. Now he says, the poet or some other character tells this about the king. The king is shocked, he is shell-shocked by the news that his wife is dead. And he is not able to cry. He is so shocked that he is not able to shed tears also. And he is so shocked that his friends or his ministers think that his heart would at any moment burst because of this sadness. It is so much filled with sadness that the heart would burst any moment if he doesn't cry. Now, here the poet is using the exact word shoka. He is not communicating what is shoka. He is actually using the word for shoka, that is the word shoka itself. On the other hand, you have this particular another verse from Ratnavali by Harsha. Here, the character Ratnavali, what she has done is she has drawn a portrait of her lover, the king, King Vatsaraja, again. And because there is some commotion in the scene, she forgets to take the painting along with her and she runs away. There is actually an ape that has invaded the garden. And there is a lot of commotion because the ape has invaded the garden, and Ratnavali leaves the painting there itself and runs away. The painting is then found out by the king, who likes her. Unfortunately, though the king likes Ratnavali and Ratnavali, the king's wife, as you know, kings had several wives, and king's main wife, the Pattamahishi, Vasavadatta, does not like their mutual love. And therefore Ratnavali is angry that she is not able to enjoy with her lover, the king. And when she had drawn this painting, what happened is, because of this sorrow, a teardrop fell from her eyes onto the painting which she had drawn. Later, the king finds out the picture, and he tells his friend, the Vidushaka, this particular drop teardrop which has fallen from her eyes on my hand. So the teardrop has fallen on the painted hand of the king, and the king feels that this is not teardrop. What is this? This is my perspiration because she has touched me. Whom she has touched? She has actually touched the king in the picture, but the king feels that this touch is like as if she has touched him itself, not the picture. And if she had touched him, he would perspire because of this love. And the king feels that this is not teardrops, but this is perspiration. And this, through this, he's not using the word love at all. By just saying that this is not teardrop, but this is my perspiration, and this perspiration is because she has touched me, he's communicating the fact that he is having love towards Ratnavali. The poet in this verse has never used any synonym for love or love itself, the word love itself. In spite of that, he is indirectly communicating that the king is having he's having the mental state of love directed at Ratnavali. So this is what Shankuka tells. Next, the question is, how can something that is just an imitation produce real effects? So we know that what is happening on the stage is just an imitation. But the real effect of rasa that we feel, how can that be produced by by imitation? When we know that something is imitated, how can we feel for it? How can we feel for something which is imitated? How can it produce a real effect, which is called as arthakriya? Real effect in the form of rasa. We enjoy what is happening on the stage. How could we enjoy if we knew that what is being shown on the stage is an imitation? How could the real effect of enjoyment occur if what is there on the stage is just an imitation? So for this, Shankuka quotes a verse from Dharmakirti. Dharmakirti is the Buddhist, and from his Pramanavartika, he quotes a particular verse. He also quotes in another place from Dharmakirti, and so it is believed that Sri Shankuka might be a Buddhist. So the verse is this: Mani Pradeepa Prabhayor Mani Buddhya Vidavatoho Mithya Jnana Visheshepi Visheshortha Kriyam Prati. Suppose there are two persons, and these two persons are proceeding towards a light. There is a light at afar. They can visualize a light from afar. The first person thinks that it is a gem, and the second person thinks that it is a lamp. Now both of them are wrong. Both of them are having both of them are erroneous. Why? Because the first one thinks that it is a gem. It is not a gem, but it is the gem's luster that he is seeing. The second one thinks that it is a lamp. He is seeing the lamp's luster and thinks that it is lamp. So both of them are wrong. But with respect to real effect, one person actually finds the gem there. One person who thinks that this is the luster of a gem that I can see from afar, approaches it and finds that there is actually a gem there. But the second person who thinks that the light is actually a lamp, he goes there but finds that there is no lamp, but there is a gem. So in the same way, though there might be an imitation, it can still produce the real effect of rasa, real effect of enjoyment. In the same way that though both of them were erroneous, it produced real effect in case of one person, but did not produce in the case of another person. So you can, just as Bhranti, just as this error produced real effect of getting the gem in one person, in the same way imitation can also produce the real effect in the form of rasa, enjoyment. Then Shankuka says that these specific type of cognitions are not present with respect to this actor. What are the cognitions that are not present? These cognitions are not present in the spectator. The spectator doesn't think that the actor himself is happy. So this is what I'll read out the original. Nacha atra nartaka eva sukhi iti pratipattihi. Napi ayam eva rama iti. Nacha api ayam na sukhi iti. Napi ramah syadva nava ayam iti. Nacha api tat sadrisha iti. Kintu samyak mithya samshaya sadrishya pratitibhyo vilakshana chitraturagadi nyayena yes sukhi ramah asau ayam iti. Yes sukhi ramah asau ayam iti pratiti asti. So the following cognitions are not present. What are the cognitions that are not present? The actor himself is happy. no spectator thinks that the actor himself is happy. So this is mithya. No spectator thinks that this is Rama himself. Again, that is mithya. The spectator doesn't think that the actor is not happy. So it is the actor is not happy. Such a cognition is also not there. Then the spectator doesn't think, is Rama happy? Is this Rama or not? There is no samshaya also. There is no doubt also. And the spectator doesn't think the person whom I am seeing on the stage is actually similar to Rama. That also we don't think. So all these 5 different types of cognitions are not present. These cognitions are of the type of mithya, that is error, samyak, correct, samshaya, doubt, and sadrishya, which is similitude. Such cognitions are not present in the spectator with respect to the actor on the stage. But what is present? The following cognition is present, and which we could call as a fictional proposition. He who was the happy Rama, this is him. This whom I am seeing in front of me, the actor, who is he? He who was the happy Rama, this person in front of me is that happy Rama. So this is the type of cognition that will be present in the spectator. And he says, because these various cognitions, error, correct, the correct cognition, doubt, or similitude are not present, Shankuka says there are no conflicting or contradictory cognitions in the rasa experience. Viruddha buddhihi asambhedat viruddha buddhi asambhedat avivechita samplavah anubhavah nasti. There is no, in this experience, there is no viruddhi buddha, viruddha contradictions. So coming to the slightly difficult portion, Niharika, can you proceed to the next slide? Yeah. So these are criticisms, a volley of criticisms actually levied by Bhattatauta on Shankuka. Bhattatauta is Abhinav Gupta's teacher, master in aesthetics, and unfortunately his book Kavya Kautuka is not available to us, but Abhinav Gupta quotes Bhattatauta's criticism of Shankuka. So Bhattatauta first comes up with this question. You say that there is imitation. So is this based on these 4 things? Do you say that there is imitation based on the experience of spectators? Do you say that there is imitation based on the experience of actors? Do you say that there is imitation based on the analysis of commentators whose analysis itself is based on actual state of affairs? Is this just a figment of imagination of the commentators who use their power of analysis and have analyzed like this? Or do you say that Bharata's opinion itself is like this, that there is imitation? And he challenges all these 4 and finally concludes that imitation, you cannot say that imitation is based either on experience of spectators, either based on experience of actors, either based on analysis of commentators, or even Bharata doesn't opine that there is actually imitation. Why? So we shall go to each of these points. First, let us take the experience of spectators themselves. So let me quote the original. Tadidamapi antastattvashunyam na vimardakshamam iti upadhyaya. So Upadhyaya here is the master, Abhinav Gupta's master. So Abhinav Gupta says that my Upadhyaya, that is my master, tells that this doesn't stand the test of logic. That is what Shankuka has told, doesn't stand the test of logic. Anukarana rupo rasa iti yaduchyate tat kim samajika pratiti abhiprayena. Is it based on samajika pratiti? Samajika pratiti is the experience of the spectators. Or is it based on natabhiprayena? Is it based on the experience of the natas, that is the actor? Kimva vastuvritta vivechaka vyakhyatra buddhi samavalambanena. Is it based on the analysis of commentators, which is based on actual state of affairs? Or atha bharatamuni vachananusarena. Or is it because of Bharata's opinion that you are saying that there is imitation? No. Tatra adhyah pakshaha asangataha. So the first if you say that it is based on experience of spectators, we do not agree. Why? Because of so many reasons. किंचिद्दि प्रमाणेन उपलब्धं तद् अनुकरणमिति शक्यं वक्तुं यथा एवमसौ सुरां पिबति इति सुरापानानुकरणत्वेन पयःपानं प्रत्यक्षावलोकितं प्रतिभाति इह च नटगतं किं तदुपलब्धं यद्गत्या अनुकरणतया यद् रति अनुकरणतया भाति इति चिन्त्यम्. So he says, does the spectator think that the actor is imitating the mental state? So if suppose you think that, when do you say there is imitation? You see your friend drinking milk. So Payahpana is drinking milk. And you say, he is drinking milk in the way he used to drink wine. Evam asau suram pibati. He is drinking this milk now in front of me, like he used to drink, like he drinks sura, that is wine. Now the poet asks, what is it with respect to the actor? Iti surapanannukarante iha cha natagatam kim tadupalabdam yat ratyanu. What is there in actor that appears like an imitation of rati? What is there in the actor that appears like an imitation of a mental state? He says that you cannot say that this is like an imitation of love. Why you can't say? Because if you say he is imitating love because of the movements of his various limbs. So that is what he's telling in the next sentence. Tat chariram tannishtam pratishishakadi romanchaka gadgadikadi bujakshepa valana prabhriti bhrukshepa katakshadikam cha na ratesh chittavritti rupa yan anukarattvena kasyachit pratibhati. If you say that he is imitating love through various movements of his limbs. So for example, what he might do, he might, because of, say for example, through his headgear, pratishirshaka is his headgear. You look at his headgear, then you look at his romancha, that is horripilation. The actor is horripilating. And then there is shaking of his voice. There is an choking of his words. So when we are in love, sometimes our words don't come from our mouth. There is a choking of words. So you see that the actor is exhibiting choking of words. You also see that the actor is exhibiting horripilation. You also see his movements of his arms. You see that his eyebrows are moving. His or her eyebrows are moving. You see that he or her is casting side glances. And by seeing all this, can you actually say that this is an imitation of love? He says it is not possible. Why? Because how can feelings be imitated through something insentient? All these are insentient. The headgear is insentient. All these, the various limbs are insentient by themselves. So what is insentient? How can it give information about something that is sentient, such as a feeling? So jadatvena, first there are insentient. Then bhinnendriya grahyatvena, we know about them from different sense organs. So we see with our eyes that there is horripilation, but we cannot see it is not that we see his indistinct utterance. It is not that we see his choking of words. We hear to his choking of words. So one is through eyes, one is through ears. So something that is, how can you infer the rati, which is inferred only by the heart, which is only understood by the heart through these various these different sense organs? How is it that these different sense organs give information about one rati, give information about one mental state? That is also not possible. So they are also bhinna adhikarana. All these various expressions are also in different parts of the body. Some are in the eyebrows, some are in the arms, some are elsewhere, some are in the face, etc. So these are bhinna adhikarana. These various expressions are in different parts of the body. They are known by the spectator through different senses. When all this is happening, how can you say, and these are all very insentient, how can you say that these insentient external manifestations could be of the body or could be something on the body like the headgear, etc. How can these insentient things give us information about something very sentient like a feeling? That is the second criticism. The third is this. So he says, Mukhyavalokanecha tat anukarana pratibhasaha nacha ramagatam ratim upalabdhi purvinaha kechit. So the third is imitation presupposes that we have had a perception of the original and copy. Only when we have known both the original as well as the copy can we say that there is imitation. But no one among the spectator has the knowledge of Rama's love in the first place. No one has seen Rama's love, or no one has even inferred Rama's love, because no one has seen Rama. So how can you say that this is an imitation? Because no one has seen the original. And if you know that something is imitated, to know something is imitated is to know both the original and the copy. When you don't have the information about original, how can you say that there is imitation? So the fourth is this: if you say this is an imitation of love, and imitation of love means love as experienced by the actor or actor himself or herself. So I say, no, this is not the imitation of love. By imitation of love, I'm not meaning the love of Rama. What I'm meaning is this is love as experienced by the actor himself or herself. Unfortunately, this cannot be imitation at all. So if actor is, you cannot say that somebody is imitating his own love. Someone can imitate the love of somebody else, but how can you say that the actor is imitating his own love? That is also not possible. So what does he say? Athat natagata chittavrittireva pratipanna sati ratyanukara shringara iti uchyate tatrapi kimatmakattvena sa pratiyata iti chintyam nanu pramadadibihi karanaihi katakshadibihi karyaihi dhrityadibhischa sahacharibir लिंगभूतैर्या लौकिकी कार्यरूपा कारणरूपा सहचारी रूपा च चित्तवृत्तिः प्रतीति योग्या तदात्मकत्वेन नटचित्तवृत्तिः प्रतिभाति तर्हि प्रति आकारेणैव सा प्रतिपन्ना इति दूरे रत्यनुकरण अनुकरणता वाचो युक्तिः. This cannot be imitation at all. If you say that it is the mental state of the actor itself that we are able to infer, that is not imitation at all. One's own mental state cannot be the imitation of that same person's mental state. So the next, so the opponent may say, if you say the aesthetic elements in Rama, aesthetic elements means vibhava, anubhava and vibhichari bhava, in Rama's love are real. Yes, for these vibhavas, anubhavas and vibhichari bhavas were real in the case of Rama, and they are unreal in the case of actor, in the case of actors imitated love. And that is what is the difference between the real Rati and the imitated Rati. Is that what the spectators think? Do the spectators think that this is imitated love? So if they think that yes, this is imitated love, if they think that the aesthetic elements are unreal, how can they actually perceive love? How can unreal elements lead to the perception of love which seems to be real? From unreal elements, how can the spectator perceive actual love? How is it possible for him to perceive the love that to him seems to be very real? So that is the next objection. So nanute vibhavadayo anukarye paramartikaha ihatu anukartari na tatheti vishesha astu evam किंतु तेहि विभावादयो अतत्कारण अतत्कार्य अतत् सहचार रूपा अपि काव्य शिक्षादि बलोपकल्पिता कृत्रिमा सन्तः किं कृत्रिमत्वेन सामाजिकैः कृत्रिमत्व is unreal. Does the samajika, that is the connoisseur, think that they are unreal? If he thinks unreal, how can the real experience of Rati or real experience of Shringara that the audience has stem from something which is very unreal? So next, again the opponent says, opponent here means the opponent who takes the side of Shankuka. So he is again saying now, okay, that is why I said it is not real love but imitation of love. So he again comes back to his original thesis. He says this is not real love. That is why I said initially itself that this is not real love but only an imitation of love. Now what Bhattatauta says is, let us see. So you are saying that this is not real love but only an imitation of love. So let us see this and let us test this. Let us see if this is actually an imitation of love. And what he does is, he takes example from the philosophy from logic, and superimposes it on the subject that is being discussed. That is, he superimposes with discussion on the stage and poetry. So the look at the figure on the left side. So there is an effect there, and under the effect I have written Vrishchika Vishesha. Vrishchika is a scorpion. Vishesha is a special type of scorpion. So that let us think that that is the effect. So in Indian tradition, it is believed that there are two types of scorpions. For us, it might seem funny, but in the Indian tradition, there are two types of scorpions, and there is a slight difference between the two types of scorpions. One of the scorpion arises from the usual cause, which is another scorpion. So scorpions arising from another scorpion which is usual, which all of us know. But there is a special type of scorpion which is said to arise from Gomaya, which is cow dung. So cow dung also leads to a special type of scorpion. So when the effect is seeing a scorpion, what will a ashikshita, that is a person who is uneducated, what will he do? He will infer the common cause. He will think that on seeing the special type of Vrishchika, special type of scorpion, he will think that this scorpion is born from a scorpion. He will not know that there is another type of scorpion which is also born from cow dung. That will be known only by the Sushikshita, a person who is wise. A person who is educated will know that this particular Vrishchika is born not from another Vrishchika. This particular scorpion is not born from another scorpion, but it is actually born from Gomaya, that is cow dung. Now, in that case, the Ashikshita is actually having Mithya Jnana. That is, Ashikshita is having erroneous knowledge. Because actually the Vrishchika Vishesha, the special type of scorpion, is not born from scorpion, it is born from Gomaya. It is born from cow dung. But he thinks that it is born from another scorpion, so he has Mithya Jnana. The correct Jnana is there only for the Sushikshita, that is for the wise person, because he correctly knows that this specific type of scorpion is born from cow dung. Now, let us superimpose this to the present discussion. So from the actor's expressions, what happens is Ashikshita, that is a person who is not well versed with the manner of drama and literature, he will have Mithya Jnana. He will think the actor's expressions are stemming from original love. Original love in the sense, the love that Rama has, the love that Rama has in his mind. He will think that from seeing the actor's expressions, he will think that this expressions owe to actual love, original love, which is there in Rama. But what will the and now we ask a question. Will the Sushikshita infer that these actors' expressions are stemming from imitated love? And Bhattatauta says no. The Sushikshita doesn't think that these actors' expressions are originating from imitated love. No educated audience, educated spectator, connoisseur will think that the actors' expressions are stemming from imitated love. So there are two things here. Does Sushikshita infer imitated love from expressions? Is the Sushikshita, the well-learned person, infer imitated love from expressions? No, he does not infer that these expressions are born from imitated love. From experience, we know that the Sahridayas don't infer that these expressions originate from imitated love. Again, does the Ashikshita, that is the unread person, the uneducated person, does he infer imitated love from expressions? Even he doesn't infer that infer that there is imitated love from expressions. What he infers is that there is original love. So neither the Sushikshita infers imitated love, nor does the Ashikshita infer imitated love, because the Ashikshita actually infers the original love. So where is the question of imitated love? Love cannot be imitated at all. So for example, to take the example of again fire and smoke, in Ashikshita's case, what happens is he confuses mist for smoke. And from that mist, he infers fire. So he might have confused mist for smoke. He might have thought that the mist is smoke. But what he will infer from that smoke, though in the first step he is wrong, he has confused mist for smoke, but what will follow will be correct only. He will not infer imitated fire, he will actually infer real fire. If he confuses mist for smoke, from that smoke, he will actually infer fire, and he will not infer something that imitates fire. So next slide. Yeah, thank you. So the next is, we cannot infer something that imitates fire from something that imitates smoke. So let us go to that particular portion. He says, Dhumanukarattvena hi jnayamanat niharat na agni anukaraja nahi agni anukara japa punja or pushpa pratitihi drishta. So we cannot infer something that imitates fire from something that imitates smoke. We cannot infer something that imitates love from something that imitates the expression stemming from love. So let me explain this with this diagram. So you infer fire from smoke, which always happens. We always infer fire from smoke. Let us take something that imitates smoke. For example, mist, nihara. Nihara imitates smoke. Let us also think about something which imitates fire. Maybe a heap of japa pushpa, heap of China roses, or a heap of hibiscus, a bed of roses or a heap of roses. So heap of roses, a heap of hibiscus imitates fire, and mist imitates smoke. Just because we infer fire from smoke doesn't mean that we infer a bed of roses from mist. Nobody infers on seeing mist that there is a bed of roses, unlike inferring fire from the presence of smoke. So this is also another objection that is put forward by Bhattadauta. Finally, there is similitude. So the person who is in support of Shankuka tells, see, the actor, he is not angry, but he appears to be angry. So there is similitude. But is similitude equal to imitation? Similitude is not equal to imitation. So that is Bhattadauta's answer. Nanu akruddhopi nataha kruddha iva bhati. Even though the actor is not angry, he seems to be like angry. Satyam, yes, what you say is correct. Kruddhena sadrishaha. He is similar to a person who is angry. But similarity is that, how is that similarity brought about Bhrukutyadibhi, by the movement of, say for example, of his eyebrows. He gives another example. Bhattadauta gives another example of similarity. Cow is similar to wild fox. So Gauriva Gavaya. Gavaya is wild fox and Gau is cow. Cow is similar to wild fox. What we can say is it is similar. Does this similarity indicate that there is imitation? Nobody would say that the cow is imitating the wild dogs. They would say cow is similar to wild dogs, but that doesn't mean, similarity doesn't mean imitation. Doesn't mean that cow is imitating the wild dogs. And again, audience itself doesn't sense that there is similitude. Nobody says that this looks like Rama. Seeing the actor, nobody will say that this person looks like Rama. And Shankuka himself says that there can be no similitude. Also, audience doesn't feel that actor is just imitating Rama's sorrow. It is not that the actor is completely free of any mental state. The actor himself has his own mental state there. The audience doesn't feel that the actor is bereft of any emotion and he is only transferring the emotion of Rama. The actor himself is also understood to be having some emotion. So coming to the next slide. So the next point is, you said that the cognition during the performance is in the form of, this is that Rama who was happy. So that is what Shankuka said. The cognition that he listed out so many cognitions that are not there. But finally he said there is this form of cognition. What is that? This is that Rama who was happy. So the Bhattadauta is asking whether this is negated after the performance. If it had not been negated, so let us go to the original. यच्चोक्तं रामोयम इत्यस्ति प्रतिपत्तिः तदपि यदि तदात्वे निश्चितं तद उत्तरकालभावी बाधक वैधुर्याभावे कथं न तत्त्वज्ञानं स्यात्. If it is negated later, if it is not negated later, we would believe that this is the actual case, that this is that Rama who was happy. But is this so? Is it negated or is it not negated? It is always negated. And because it is negated, after the program, nobody thinks that, even if during the program he thought that the actor is Rama, after the program, nobody would go with this, nobody would go home with this message that the person I saw today on the stage was actually Rama. It is negated after the performance. So therefore, there is actually mithya jnana, there is error. And therefore, like Shankuka said, aesthetic experience is characterized by an absence of conflicting cognitions. That is also wrong. Actually, there are conflicting cognitions. So at the time of performance, one may think that the person on the stage is that Rama who was happy, but after the performance, he doesn't go with this message. Also, if suppose he were to think that this is Rama, this is that Rama, with respect to one actor, say actor 1, how could he think the same with another actor who is also playing the character of Rama? That would not happen. Surely not all persons, all these actors can be thought of as Rama. So therefore, there is something called as Ramaness, and that is something, and that Ramaness is something which is a common or a general class category. So, so let us go to that. So what does he say? Nartakantarepi cha Ramoyam iti pratipattirasti. Nartakantara, another actor, also we think that this is Rama, which is not possible. Not all of them can be Ramas. Tatascha Ramatvam Samanya Rupam iti ayatam. Samanya Rupa is a general class category. So there is something called as Ramanes, and that is a general class category. So the next objection is to say that Vibhavas are supplied by poem or script is wrong. That is what Shankuka said. We get to know about the causes for a mental state from the script or from the poem. That is wrong. So why? Because the actor never thinks that this is some Sita who is belonging to me. On seeing a particular another actress dressed as Sita, he doesn't think, let me think her as a cause for my love. The actor doesn't think that this is some Sita who has come for me and who is going to induce sorrow in me. That doesn't happen. If you say the spectators actually obtain the knowledge of Vibhava from poetry or script, or that poetry supplies the Vibhavas for the spectators, actually you should say something much more important. You should actually say that poetry supplies not just Vibhavas, it actually supplies the Sthayi Bhava itself for the spectators. That is more important. After all, Vibhava, Anubhava and Vyabhichari Bhava are only enriching the Sthayi Bhava. Sthayi Bhava is the summum bonum of poetry. It is what gets converted into, it is what it becomes rasa. So Sthayi Bhava is more important, and so you should actually say that poetry supplies Sthayi Bhava itself for the spectators. It is like saying, so the dish, say called pongal or khichdi, mainly communicates the taste of dal and rice. That is what you should say, that it mainly communicates the taste of dal and rice. You cannot say that it communicates the taste of pepper. That would be an understatement. Actually, the main taste that the pongal or khichdi communicates the taste of dal and rice, not the taste of pepper. But Shankuka seems to think that the taste of pepper is much more important, and to think like that would be actually an understatement. So I think I have a time only for this much today, and also because initial 10 minutes were taken up by few other obstructions. So I think I will continue with Bhattanayaka and Abhinav Gupta tomorrow, and also Vakrokti Jivita of Kuntaka. Hopefully I can do justice to it tomorrow. So I would be very happy to receive certain questions. As far as possible, let the questions be on the text itself. It's our purpose during these 3 lectures is to actually understand the text. So let us concentrate on the text rather than on something else. Once we understand the text, we can pose a lot of other questions also. But let our focus be the text during these 3 days, during these 3 classes. So, Niharika, you could.
Shankar sir. Yeah. You can post your questions on the chat box. Shankar sir will be able to take those questions up. And please don't worry if your questions are not taken up today. The WhatsApp groups that everyone is in, they will be available for your discussions and feedback for an hour. We'll let that group also active. So Shankar sir may be replying to all the messages there also. So please don't panic if your questions are not taken up right now. They will be answered in the WhatsApp group also. So, sir, there are some questions. Should I read them out to you, or are they visible to you, sir?
Few of them are, but I'm not able to read them continuously. Actually,
okay.
Can you?
Yeah, okay. Okay, sir. Yeah. Okay. I'll just read out some to you, sir. Okay. This Pragya Dev I think, has a question. Can you please explain the difference between similitude and imitation?
Yeah, as done by Bhattacharya, that is what I will do. I will not give my own interpretation of what is the difference between similitude and similitude and imitation is. So what actually Bhattacharya says is that, let me come to the slide. Yeah. I think it's in the
So should I share the screen again?
Yeah, if you can share the 9th.
Yes. Yes, sir. Just a minute, sir. So this is it?
Yeah, the lower portion of that.
Yes, sir.
8th point. So what does the point? What is the opposition? That is Shankuka's a person who supports Shankuka say. He says, Nanu akruddhopi nataha kruddha iva bhati. Though the actor is not angry, he appears to be angry. Satyam kruddhena sadrishaha. Yes. And Tauta says, yes, kruddhena sadrishaha. He is similar to a kruddha. He is similar to a person who is angry. And how is this similarity brought about? Through Phrukuti Adibhi, through the movements of, say, for example, the eyebrows, or through some change in the color of the face, etc. You know that the person is resembling somebody who is angry. And how is that resemblance? This resemblance is through something which is very physical. Gauriva Gavayena. Just like a cow is similar to wild dogs. That is what is similarity. And this similarity is based on external features. So when you say a cow is similar to wild dogs, you actually say that it is similar because of certain physical features. You cannot say that it is similar because of certain mental states. So, and saying that the cow is similar to wild dogs, obviously doesn't mean that the cow is imitating the wild dogs. Cow is what a cow is, and a wild dogs is what a wild dogs is. You can never say that the cow is actually imitating the wild dogs. In the same way, you cannot actually say that the actor is imitating Rama. In fact, it is the thesis of Tauta itself is that the mental states can never be imitated, because they can see the external features, the external expressions that stem from the mental state are not actually sentient. These are jada. That is what he says. And from something which is insentient, how can you actually imitate something which is sentient, such as a mental state? However, what we can see, a similarity, I think, would be like when you dress up like somebody. The similarity can be in few external features rather than on with respect to mental states. So mental states, there is neither similarity nor is there any imitation. That's what.
So should I stop sharing the screen now?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, sir. So, okay, I'm just reading out the questions that I'm seeing. What is the difference between imitate? Okay, wait, it just went up. Just a minute, sir. Okay, there is a question by Dilip HR. Are these applications only to drama or to all of literature in general?
Yeah. So this is a good question, and this is actually to all of literature. But as you know, Bharata's work is basically on dramaturgy. But later on, dramaturgy and poetics got fused with one another, and the theories that were applicable to dramaturgy were also freely borrowed by poeticians to analyze poetry. So these hold good even for poetry. That is what I say. In fact, many other later people who have actually analyzed made use of these theories are actually poeticians who bring in examples from literature. But as far as literature, see, Abhinav Gupta and others think that literature to a great degree should resemble drama. So literature finds its fulfillment only if it rises to the level of, see, other forms of literature, like say poetry, like an epic poem like Mahakavya will become will actually realize its it will be fulfilled only to the extent that that Mahakavya resembles a Rupaka, resembles a Nataka. So the Mahakavya also, a lyrical poem or a great epic, etc., also as should strive to rise to the level of drama. So this only when it rises to the level of drama that does rasa stem in its actual sense. In other cases, you could say that it is slightly less than the rasa that you would get if they are not dramatized.
Thank you, sir, for the answer. We'll just take one more question as we are running out of time. So I'll just repeat, the WhatsApp groups will be open for communications, discussions, and feedback for an hour or two. So all the questions that we are missing out here in the chat box will be posted on those groups, and Shankar sir will be responding to it. Shankar sir's email ID will also be shared on the groups, also his profile. I'll share his achievements, and there are various people asking me about his profile, so I'll also share that link. So sir, the last question for today is, could you kindly elaborate on the gradations in rasa and the Shankuka's criticism as Shringara rasa, for example, has various gradations?
So I don't know whether the person who has asked the question needs me to take especially the example of Shringara, or I could take any other mental state also and explain. That is a little easier. So if I don't go into specifically Shringara rasa, so that is basically the thesis of Lollata that we are this question falls under. So to give an example, let us say we want to prepare khichdi, and we start with some basic ingredient, say rice and some dal, and we could add more of rice, or we could add more of dal, we could add more of other spices, and keep on enriching this particular ingredient, and until it becomes khichdi. But then at every moment it is at every time it is getting enriched multiple times. So the gradation, by gradation, what Shankuka and others mean is that if there had been a gradation, then at each point in the formation of this particular khichdi, we should say that this is 1% khichdi, this is 2% khichdi, this is 3% khichdi, this is 4% khichdi. So you add more ingredients, then it becomes 5% khichdi. Like that, you will have a gradation of khichdi's. In the same way, you will have a gradation of rasas. So which is not true, because rasa, as Bharata has given, there is only one rasa. It doesn't say that there are infinite type of rasas. There are infinite types of Shringarasa. There are infinite types of Karuna rasa, infinite type of Veera rasa. That is not what Bharata has said. Bharata has said that there are 9 rasas, and we cannot stick with 9 rasas if we think that they are getting enriched. And because at each moment of enrichment, we could think of them as partially formed rasas. So there would be a gradation of these rasas. So partially and more and less partially, more partially, except mandatama, mandatara, that is what is the word used. So that is what is, my answer.
Thank you so much, sir. So I'll just repeat a few points again for everyone. Shankar sir's email ID and profile will be shared on the group. Both the groups will be opened for discussion and for other questions. Shankar sir will be responding on both the groups. Also, the questions that we have missed in the chat box today will be posted on those groups, and sir will give an answer to there. Feedback form links will be only available after the course, like on 20th. All the feedback form links will be sent to you via email. So if you have any other questions, technical questions about the e-certificate, about feedback forms and other things, you may please contact me or Ashwini ji. Both our numbers are there on the groups, and also in our email chain. So please go through that. Now we'll sign off for today, and we'll activate both the WhatsApp groups. So I will humbly thank Dr. Shankar Rajaraman for the wonderful lecture that he has given today, and for also taking up the questions and for his time. I thank every participant here for making this with the first class success of this course. So we'll sign off today, and we'll meet you again on the WhatsApp group. So thank you everyone on behalf of Team CSP.
Thank you, Niharika.
Thank you, sir.
I would like to
Thank you,
thank.
everyone.
I would like to thank Dr. Saurabh and Dr. Sangeeta ma'am today. Without Sangeeta ma'am's constant support, it would be very difficult for us to organize such a course. And Saurabh, Dr. Saurabh, I think he is also one of the participants. He is my colleague in NIAS, and we have had several discussions on Rasa Shastra as well as phenomenology with mutual discussions. And it is these discussions that actually encouraged me to take this particular course. So I would like to thank both of them.
Thank you, Shankar sir. Thank you, Saurabh sir. He's here with us. And and thank everyone. So we'll meet you on the WhatsApp groups now. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.